with all of us here, I guess we'll open up the meeting, and I just wanted to see if anybody had any questions. I looked at the minutes. I was okay with them. Does anybody have any questions on the minutes?
Right here.
So if minutes are okay, I'd request a motion.
I move to approve the minutes.
A second?
Second.
And all in favor, signify by raising your hand. You'll note that it's unanimous. And then, so the next thing is a notice of a hearing, meeting agenda. I just want to, before we start the meeting, disclose that basically I have represented Steve Graham in the past, who's a petitioner here. I haven't represented him probably for 8 or 9 years now, but he's also a personal friend. So I don't know how the board feels. I think I can give a fair assessment, but rather than have anything potentially tainted, I didn't know if the other, I should just recuse myself and allow the other board members to go forward. That's, I guess, what the issue was.
I mean, you're not representing him in this.
No,
matter.
I don't represent him now. That's why I'm you know, saying I don't think I have a conflict, but I mean, rather than even have it potentially challenged, we've got enough members here that could vote on it tonight without me.
I have no problem, Mark.
Yeah,
I have no problem.
No,
If
no problem, Mark.
if there's not a a clear conflict of interest, just we all well, maybe you guys have got friends. I don't have that many friends, but eventually we're all going to have a friend,
yeah,
or somebody we did business with come across the table, and
yeah,
if it's a monetary.
I mean, I think I can be objective, but I just didn't want any possible taint, and we have enough members so that there wouldn't even be a taint if I don't participate in the meeting. That was the issue, and whether what's.
I don't think it can be considered a taint.
No, not at all.
So.
Yeah, you may just want to ask Steve to make sure he's okay with it too, or the petitioner, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I will when we get online with it to recuse myself. I mean, obviously, he would. I would think would say, well, he's a friend of mine. I'd probably prefer to have him on the board. He probably wouldn't have a problem, but the recusal would potentially hurt him. That would be the only concern I have. But we have enough members to vote without me. That's why I was just questioning whether I should just not even take the chance of having anybody who potentially might oppose whatever you guys do, and not to use the conflict of interest as a wedge to get an appeal. That's all.
I don't think there's an issue, Mark.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, let's open a meeting.
Well, it should open up the meeting then, and I'll disclose it of the record. Bethany, is the petitioner available, and any witnesses that he has?
Yes, he is.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is read the notices and then verify that the notices and announce this is a Zoom meeting. The notices were sent to everybody with the Zoom information, and you'll speak, when the moderator allows. So normally what we do is we'll have the petitioner present. Anybody in favor after the petitioner can speak. After the people in favor speak, we'll allow anybody in opposition to speak. And then if there are any new points brought up, we will allow the petitioner to rebut any of the things brought up. And then hopefully we'll be able to close the meeting if we have enough information. If not, we'll continue the meeting and either vote or continue the meeting to another night. So if someone would at least read the notices, the public notices. I think Bethany, you're the one who has it.
I have it.
Okay, you have it, Brian. So if you want to read the
East Long Meadow Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing will be held on July 12th at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom meeting webinar with a link attached. Case ZB 2021-2, a petition for variance under East Long Meadow bylaw article 5.83 business district 2, ground signs A for a 12 plus or minus foot relief from a 25-foot required setback for frontage at 64 Maple Street, Assessor's Parcel ID 27-9-0 in the Building Zoning District. Applicant Steve Graham, 35 Industrial Drive, East Long Meadow, Mass. Is the petitioner. And this was filed on 6/24 and again on 7/1/2021 and published.
So for the record, now the hearing's open, I do want to explain that Steve Graham is a friend of mine. I have represented him in the past. I don't currently represent him, nor am I representing on this petition. And I think I can vote fairly on this, one way or the other, and listen and speak objectively and vote objectively. So if anybody has any objection to me sitting, I would suggest that I'll sit on this hearing and vote on the hearing. Does anybody object?
Brian,
So I'll recuse myself, and I think we still have 5 members available. And, you know, the alternate, Jim, you would be voting in this particular case for me if I didn't vote. So is Mr. Graham okay with that, or any other people in attendance have any problem with that?
Yes. Thank you, Mark, for identifying me as a friend.
Yeah. So, but with no objection, I guess we'll proceed. Steve, the way we usually do it, just give your name and address, give why you believe you're entitled to a variance. We've gotten packages with the plans and pictures that you would send us in your application, and copy of your deed. I've taken a look at the site. I assume other people have as well. And if there's anybody after you speak that's in favor of it, we'll have them speak. And then if there's anybody here in opposition, we'll have them speak. And if they bring up anything new, Steve, you'll get an opportunity to rebut that. Okay?
Thank you. My name is Steve Graham. My business address is 35 Industrial Drive in East Long Meadow. My home address is 124 Stonehill Road in East Long Meadow. The property address is 64 Maple Street. It's widely known as the historic train depot site. The reason for the request for the zoning bylaw, the zoning bylaw requires a sign to be 25 feet away, and we're approximately 13 feet away. And the reason that I'm requesting the variance and feel that it should be granted, a couple reasons. There's a large maple tree that we managed to save when we were redoing the project when you're traveling east to west on Maple Street. And it does hinder the view a little bit of the site. I think that there's a couple safety concerns. There's a lot of activity right at the site with Dunkin' Donuts directly across the street. The high school on the same side as the street as us. We have a lot of students crossing various times of the day. And I think the easier it is for a motorist to see the place they're looking for, in this case, the sign, which is really the only thing that identifies us. We've tried to keep the integrity of the historical building as close to possible to what it was. So the sign is how we are identified. If they're looking around for the sign because it's set back farther from the street, it's just a distraction for the motorists. I think having them see it as quickly as possible is the best solution from a safety standpoint. I think that if it were put back farther, it would be in the, well, there's no question it would be in the parking lot. I think the parking lot is a real enhancement to that site as well. It would take up 2 of the valuable parking spaces in the lot, and also would be a little bit of a potential hazard for people backing up and pulling in and out. So keeping it out of the lot, I think, is an additional safety concern. I think just from a general standpoint, the majority of the signage on Maple Street in that area is all closer than the 25-foot setback allows for business. And so from the standpoint of not harming any businesses or any look of the town that the bylaws are trying to preserve, I think we can sort of eliminate that as a potential problem as well. I don't think any of the businesses would object to the way the sign is set up or feel that it's impacting their business in a negative manner. I think that's probably pretty much it on my end. Any questions or anything that I need to?
In looking at the deed, Steve, I just had a question in terms of, there's a bunch of easements that were mentioned. I assume this sign isn't in the middle of any of those easements?
Correct.
And that probably also is a further limitation. You couldn't put the sign on in those easements either.
Yeah, there are a lot of easements on the property. That is
I
correct.
wasn't sure where they were, but by reading the deed, but there was a bunch of them that were listed in there. I just am not sure where they are, because you've got a bunch of things in here for easements that used to belong to the railroad, etc. And the space.
Well, there's a lot of easements that run directly in front of the depot itself in that grassy area. I think that's what you're referring to.
Right.
And if we put the sign over in there, it would impact potentially the easements that.
Yeah, but there were also spur tracks at one time there as well, Steve, off of that. I think there used to be, when I first came to town, that's how old I am, there used to be spur tracks that went to community feed directly. And I believe there were rights there. That's why I just wanted to make sure, because I don't know if those were ever eliminated.
I don't know the answer to that, Mark.
Okay.
But
Well, no, I didn't know.
Yeah, I am familiar with where that spur runs, and you are correct, or where that spur did run.
Right. I believe it's probably where your parking lot is today. You just don't want to have any structures in that. But, and I guess, in terms of the thing, you've pretty clearly laid it out in your application. So I'm okay with that. And I think part of the reason in terms of the, having it, I think from a safety point of view, and you can clearly see the signs that are on buildings and not attached to buildings along Maple Street that are probably closer than the 25 feet currently. So you're not, different than the neighborhood as a whole. You're not standing out like a sore thumb.
Correct.
Any other questions from any of the board members?
No, sounds good.
Okay, is there anybody here to speak in favor? Speak now, forever hold your peace.
Mark, you do have one attendee.
Yep.
I'm not sure.
Olivia King was working with Go Graphics, the company, the sign company.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about the sign? I was satisfied as the size of the sign, the location of the sign, the height, and the, and I feel you don't want to have signs on a historic structure. It undermines the historic, part of the building. And I think this is a tasteful sign in keeping with the, the overall design of the existing historic structure.
Yeah, it looked very good to me. I know, guys.
So, and so does anybody, woman from Go Graphics have anything to say, or?
Just have her raise her hand if she wants to speak,
Okay.
Mark, and I'll
Yeah,
let
no.
her in. But
Okay.
I don't see that she is, so.
Okay, so then I'll ask, I don't think there's any other attendees, but in case there are, is anybody here in opposition to this petition? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 So now I'll entertain a motion to either approve the variance with any conditions or deny the variance and reasons why.
I'll move to approve the variance. You know, the unique nature of the land as created by easements and sort of the parking lot creates a necessity if you're going to have the sign to have it in the location that it's at. It's not inconsistent with other and setbacks on Maple Street. I think that the sign put in the place that it is proposed improves the safety coming into and out of, as well as for cars that would be slowing down to identify the location. So for those reasons, I approve.
I second Charles. Yeah.
Okay, and then I'll do a voice vote. I guess I'll start with you, Francis.
Yes, I approve.
Dan,
Approve.
Charles,
Aye.
Brian,
I approve.
and I'll make it unanimous. Steve, there is a 20-day appeal period that we have, so someone theoretically could file an appeal, but we'll get the decision written up. I'll sign it and we'll file it with the Registry of Deeds, or with the town clerk, I should say, and you'll need to record it. Do we record these, Bethany? Or does
No,
it
we don't.
petitioner? Okay, so you'll have to record the variance with the Registry of Deeds, Steve, once the 20-day appeal period expires. The clerk will put on the fact that hopefully there has been no appeal, and the variance will become effective upon the recording at the Registry of Deeds. And we'll just ask that you provide us with a copy of the recorded variance.
Okay, well, thank you
Okay.
very much. I appreciate it, everybody's time.
Okay,
Go
thank
on,
you.
Steve.
Do we have any other business, board members?
This was it.
Okay, so Dan, when you joined, we were talking about when we could start doing in person, because I know the emergency has been lifted and they did pass allowing continuation of the Zoom meetings for a period of time. But one of the issues always comes down is the quorum and having people together. So it might be more convenient. I don't know, once the library opens up, that we meet, and Zoom would still be available for those people who, potentially couldn't make the meeting. If you had babysitting your kids or something and you couldn't make it to the meeting, it might be, an alternative, but we could do in person, the hybrid with an in-person, and they're wiring the library so we can do Zoom meetings ourselves right from the library room.
And
Well, I'm all for in-person meetings. I'm not a big fan of Zoom, but I'm perfectly happy accommodating others who are. And whatever you guys decide you want to do, one or the other, or a little bit of both, is fine with me.
No, I just, I want to make it as convenient for people as possible. And I think it's easier for us if we're together in a meeting.
Yeah,
As
definitely.
well. And if there are, submissions and things, it just makes it a little easier. Here, we got a complete submission, but some nights we get when, people are bringing stuff in for the first time or seeing it for the first time. It's a little bit more difficult when you're doing it on a Zoom meeting than in person.
Right.
So
Agreed.
when are we talking, Mark? What are you thinking?
Well, he's talking about probably if we have hearings, and it'll all depend on when the library is wired. The earliest it'll be is September, might be October, November, I don't know, and it'll depend on when and if we have any petitions. I don't know if we've got anything pending.
Yeah. No, I don't know if you wanted to not do it till then or do something private without the Zoom thing, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I would leave it open if they're going to do it, because there's a lot of people who sometimes said that I wish I could have attended, but, you know, I'm taking
Right.
care of my kids and I can't
Yeah,
really
no.
leave my kids to go to a meeting, and it gives them the opportunity to be in their home with their children and participate in a meeting, or at least listen in.
Yeah, okay.
So
So you're thinking now until at least September, we're gonna still do the Zoom and then,
I would say probably till September, and we've got
Yeah.
the capabilities of doing, unless we want to start trying to see if we can use the school committee room at different nights, because that's currently wired, and we could start meeting there in the short run, but, you know, they've got priority.
Yeah.
And so, you know.
oh,
right
that sounds good to me. If everybody's in agreement that we at least gear for September, it
Yeah.
would be nice to be in person again, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, that's why I'd like to be able to do that if we could, but that'll all be depending on whether or not they've got it wired through Zoom or not. So, but if they don't, we may continue to do it, or we may just meet in another room, you know, in
Right.
another location, and just put that on the meeting and still have Zoom, because they've got
Yeah.
capabilities there.
Right.
So, but we have to make sure we get scheduled, and Bethany would take care of that, I would think.
There might be a conflict because I know school committee tends to meet Monday nights, so we would just have to look at their.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We may have trouble getting that room
Yeah.
available, and then we could always do it at LCAT as well, but I don't know what the.
Yeah,
if
let's
it's a big
visit it
crowd,
in
that could be an issue.
Let's
Yeah.
visit in September and then we can vote
Yeah.
and see what we want to do, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's the best.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mark,
Sounds good,
you
guys.
guys have a meeting planned for August?
I don't think we have, do we have any petitions? I'm not aware of any. but
We
you
don't
would-
have any at the moment. I think they still have a week or so to get submittals in if they want to
All right.
scrape in at the last minute, but I don't have anything right now.
Well, I'm going to say that I would, I'm pretty sure that September is doable.
Okay,
If it would be October, I would say at the latest.
Okay.
Certainly wouldn't push out till November.
Okay.
It's not that complicated, so.
yeah, and we'll have Bethany check with you beforehand anyways, before we set up a meeting, because last thing I want to do is do a Zoom and not have it capable. So we'll make sure we can do that. So,
All right.
okay, I have a motion to close, and
So moved.
Motion to close.
So moved.
those above me. All in favor, raise your hands and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
It's
All right,
unanimous.
guys. Have a
Good night,
good
everybody.
night. Yeah.